Please make welcome Gabrielle Dolan.
So I worked recently with a senior exec called Jeff, and he always used to use the term executional excellence. Don't you just love those terms? It sounds like we killed something, but we did it really well. Anyway, I was getting a feeling that Jeff's people didn't really understand what he meant by it, so I asked him for what he meant by it. And he said something along the lines of, well, it's the combination of the visualisation followed by the realisation of our agreed deliverables in line with the strategic direction. Jeff, I'm not still really getting that. And he went, well, it could be described as the completion of our stated objectives in a both consistent and reliable manner. I thought I would push my luck one more time. And out of pure frustration, he said to me, put simply, executional excellence is when we decide to do something, let's make sure we bloody well do it right. It was like, why can't we say that? Because I get that. So there's a lot of Jeffs in the world that use corporate jargon, but I think when we use jargon, we're not being real. I mean, I get it doesn't take up as much words, but when did we start taking leadership lessons from Twitter guidelines? Some of the corporate jargon we use actually doesn't even use less characters. One going around at the moment is close of play. I need that by close of play. That would be the end of the day. Yep, you got it, close of play. So you've just asked me to bust a gut to get you something by the end of the day, but somehow we're making it sound like a play date. You know, in the 1960s, John F. Kennedy inspired a generation of Americans when he said, we will put a man on the moon and bring him safely back to Earth by the end of this decade. Now, if Kennedy had been a modern-day CEO or politician, he would say something a little bit different, I'm figuring. And it'd be something along the lines of, our mission is to be the preeminent leaders in the industry by leveraging our core competencies and best practice in a robust and scalable reach-out mission that we will do by the decade's close of play. Yes. In the words of Homer Simpson, it's funny because it's true. Folklore has it on one of Kennedy's visits to NASA, he asked a cleaner what he was doing. And the cleaner said, I'm helping put a man on the moon. Imagine if we could talk in a way that the cleaners knew what we were doing. Imagine if we could communicate in a way that was real, that got that amount of traction and engagement. And I use the word imagine because I don't think we're being real. I don't even think we're close. In fact, I think we're being unreal. And I don't mean that in a cool way. The way we talk, this way we talk that's not real, it's killing us. It's killing engagement, it's killing productivity, it's killing loyalty. I started work smack bang in the middle of the 80s, and you know, look, maybe it's nostalgia, but the 80s were good times. I mean, they were fun times. I mean, we were walking like an Egyptian, we were living on a prayer, and we built this city, we built it on rock and roll. And I don't know about you, but I was having the time of my life. Were you counting? That was four. That was four losers counting. But then something really bad happened, really bad. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking Milli Vanilli. Granted, that was bad. And some of you might be even thinking when Rick Astley released Never Gonna Give You Up, right? Granted, they were bad. But what happened is the recession hit. We either lost our jobs or we did everything to keep our jobs. We bunkered down, we stayed below the radar, we didn't do anything to rock the boat. We enrolled en masse in MBAs where we learn about TOES analysis and SWOTs analysis and Porter's 5 forces and all this other way to analyse stuff. And at the same time, the internet meant we had more information than we could possibly need. The mantra of if it can't be managed, if it can't be measured, it can't be managed was heralded around corporate Australia. So we produced even more data. And of course then we needed to communicate all this compelling information to our employees. But how were we going to do that? How were we going to cascade all this information through our organisation in a way that was engaging and exciting? Well, thank goodness, because Microsoft released PowerPoint. The saviour. We all have a little laugh now, but don't forget how excited we were when PowerPoint came up. I mean, the PowerPoint replaced the overhead transparency. We had sound effects. We could choose which way slides transitioned in, from the left, from the right, or the dissolve from the middle. And those little cool clip art characters, we could have them scratching their head, or pointing at things, or shrugging in confusion. And then we could have thought bubbles over the top of them. I mean, our presentations were one step away from animated Hollywood. And with all this theatre at our fingertips, how could our presentations ever be boring again? And of course, what we know is PowerPoint condemned us to some sort of presentation hell of bullet point infinity. Now, when I'm talking about PowerPoint, I'm not talking about the brilliant use of PowerPoint you've seen and going to see here today. And I don't want Microsoft to sue me. I am talking about the systemic poor use of PowerPoint that we see filtered through business. I mean, if PowerPoint was a prescribed drug and they realised that once the user consumed it, it significantly impacted their ability to communicate, it would have been banned a decade ago. But yet here we are, still addicted. I mean, did we make some weird Rick Astley type promise to PowerPoint of never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to run around and desert you? Every time you use PowerPoint now, you'll think of that song, and my job here is done, I think. So there's no denying that PowerPoint and the access to information not only changed what we communicate, but how we communicate. And we've ended up in this place where we just inform people. But it's not working, and we have to change. Death by PowerPoint has to stop. Corporate jargon has to stop. The way we talk in this depersonalising way has to stop. Do you know by 2020, Gen Y will be the most dominant generation in the workforce? I love Gen Ys. Any Gen Ys in the room? Yeah, come on, say it loud. Say it proud. You're kidding yourself, Natalie. What I love about Gen Ys is they have this beautiful, healthy disrespect for authority. And they will not follow leaders based on position or title. They will follow the leaders that engage them. They will follow the leaders that connect them with purpose. They will follow the leaders that inspire and ignite them. And besides Gen Y demanding us to lead more authentically, we still have the challenge of information overload. Information overload's not new, but it's not going away. People aren't looking for more information. They're looking for leaders to make it relevant for them, to make it meaningful for them. The leaders that can engage this generation will be the leaders that are sought after in the future. See, I visualise this spectrum, right? And I call it the get real spectrum. And at one end, we have leaders that just inform. All they do is pass on information. And right at the other end, we have leaders that inspire. And we need to move along this spectrum. One of the ways we can move along this spectrum to a place of inspire is the way we talk. It's simply in the way we talk. Last year, I was travelling in the car with my two daughters, Alex and Jess, and Jess, the youngest, she was 10 at the time. And she said to Alex, "Hey, Alex, do you know when lovers communicate, they go, Did I just hear that right? It's like, what was that, Jess?" And she said, "Oh, I was just telling Alex that when lovers communicate, they go, So I'm starting to get a little bit freaked out now because I am pretty positive that they have not overheard anything. And if they have, it's certainly not. Well, it's certainly not from me. That's all I'm saying. So I'm freaking out, but I'm trying to be really calm. And I go, "So who told you that, Jess?" "I saw it on the internet." Okay, so now I am really freaking out. And I'm trying to be cool, but I wasn't. So I just turned around and said, "Jessie, I don't know why you are watching Lovers on the internet, but it is completely inappropriate and don't do it again." And she just looked at me really weird and she said, "Mum, I never said lovers, I said llamas." I was like, carry on, carry on, carry on. Okay, so the way we talk is really critical, right? And I think a lot of the time we are saying llama and they're hearing lover and it's freaking them out. So there's a lot of Jeffs in the world and we talk about executional excellence and optimization and visualization and operationalization. And I think it should be, what about cut the crapization and say it as it is-ization? Why don't we just stop adding ization to the end of every 10th word we say? Because every time we use jargon, every time we disconnect and we isolate people. Because jargon's easy, right? Using jargon is easy. Being genuine and being real is harder. Now, don't get me wrong, with all the best intentions, I am guilty as the next person of using corporate jargon, but I think it's one of the most laziest ways to communicate. And if it wasn't lazy enough, we then reduce it to an acronym. Do you know there's a word? There's a word called acronymization. I kid you not. It means the process of turning a phrase into an acronym. You know, seriously, the word has gone mad. One of my favourite acronyms at the moment going around, and I use the term favourite very loosely, is customer value proposition and employee value proposition that we reduce to CVP or EVP. You use it, don't you? We use it. It took me years to figure out what that meant. You know, it's like, does anyone really get that? You know, I sort of know that, you know, CVPs are stuff we do for our customers and EVPs are stuff we do for employees. But does anyone really engage with it, connect it? You know, we ask our people what's our CVP and they're just thinking WTF or NFI. Now, there is one good thing about acronyms. You can drop the F-bomb on stage and get away with it. Twice. I just did. See, I think every time we use corporate jargon, if we're disconnecting and isolating people, why is it the language of business? Imagine if we could replace the language of business with storytelling that actually connects and involves people. I'm a massive fan of storytelling. Let me share something with you. January this year, we went on a family holiday overseas, and one of the places we went to was Paris. Now, Alex, my elder daughter, not Jessie, the llama-loving kid, but Alex, she, 8 years ago, was diagnosed with celiac disease. And she said to me on the eve of Paris, she went, "Mum, I know this is a really bad idea, but I would really love to have a croissant in Paris." So the next day I'd organised a food guide, a food tour, and I spoke to the guide about this, and the guide said, "Good news, the French actually process flour differently, which is really low in gluten, and considering croissants are mainly butter, croissants are almost gluten-free." One very, very happy kid on our hands. She also said, if Alex hasn't had a croissant in 8 years, it deserves to be the best. Are you prepared to go out of your way and I will take you to the bakery that is known to have the best croissants in Paris? And of course we were. So there we were, walking along, passing bakery after bakery after bakery that all served croissants that all looked the same to me. And the guide said the French have a beautiful phrase, and it's "ça vaut le déplacement." And what it translates to, it's worth the trip. And they use it in these instances where people are prepared to go out of their way for something because it's worth the trip. And by the way, those croissants were "ça vaut le déplacement." It took me about 6 months to learn that one phrase in French, and I am so going to use it more than once. But this got me thinking. Imagine instead of saying, what's our CVP or our customer value proposition, we shared a story like this. And then we asked of our people, what are we doing that people would go out of their way to buy from us? What are we doing that people would go out of their way to work with us? Imagine being in a meeting and making a decision based on, is this worth the trip? See, I don't know about you, but that engaged me and connects with me in a way that What's Our CVP never would or never could. Because a story will trump jargon every single time. Every single time. So leadership's a tough gig, right? It's a really tough gig. And being real with your leadership is even tougher. Because it's more than what we say, it's who we are. See, one of the other ways we can move along this spectrum to a place that inspires is be prepared to bring our whole self to our leadership. You know, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? What do you believe in? What are you prepared to take a stand for? And are you prepared to bring that to your leadership? I see too many leaders that believe they need to be bulletproof because they have this position of authority. But that's not being real, and it's certainly not inspiring. Leaders that believe they have to have the answer to everything and not show any emotional vulnerability, it's not being real, and it's not inspiring. People are looking for leaders that show emotion and vulnerability, not on leaders who are perfect, because perfect leaders aren't real, and real leaders aren't perfect. Because when we're not prepared to show any emotion and vulnerability, we make decisions and act in a way that is either safe or popular. It was Martin Luther King who said, cowardice asked the question, is it safe? Expediency asked the question, is it politic? Vanity asked the question, is it popular? But conscience asked the question, is it right? When I see leaders who are prepared to bring their whole self to their leadership, I see leaders answering that question, is it right? Too many of our leaders make decisions that are either safe, politic, or popular, not on what is right. So being real, bringing your whole self to your leadership takes courage. But I believe it's the right thing to do, and I also believe it's worth the trip. We need to move across this spectrum. We need to move from a place where we are cascading to a place we're connecting. From a place where we're using jargon to a place where we're being genuine. From asking, is it safe, to asking, is it right? And we all have the ability to move along this spectrum. You all do. To communicate in a way that truly connects. To be you, and to constantly ask yourself, is your leadership worth the trip? I llama you.